The National. Overtime edition. Here is Peter Mansbridge.
And good evening. We'll get back to the overtime in a few minutes, but first here's a brief look at some of the stories we'll have on the National right after the game. And we begin in Ottawa, where the crisis in the Liberal Party once again dominated the day, both inside and outside the House of Commons. Paul Hunter has the details.
It happens every Tuesday. The Prime Minister goes to work bright and early for a cabinet meeting.
Hello, how are you?
And afterwards, he takes queries from reporters. But today, his answers raised even more questions.
One at a time, one at a time.
They were all to do with Paul Martin and whether Chrétien's worried about a backlash from Liberal MPs, angry that Martin was dumped from cabinet on the weekend. What came out was a dramatic warning for those MPs.
You know, the election is not for tomorrow, unless that they want to have an early election. You know, they have only to vote on Thursday night to have an election.
Daring MPs who don't like him to vote against a Liberal spending bill and force a federal election. But, he added, be careful what you wish for.
If they destroy the Liberal Party, the alternative is Harper.
Opposition leader Stephen Harper was in for his own surprise when his party got to question the Prime Minister later. The Alliance suggested there may now be too much work for Deputy Prime Minister John Manley with the freshly added duties of Finance Minister.
You know, he just told me that he has a part-time job with Tim Hortons on Friday. So, but if he has a little bit too much, you know, I will become his assistant.
And so the Alliance reframed the question.
And I just wonder if this isn't a new mechanism to keep another leadership rival so busy that he'll hardly be able to breathe.
I never thought about it, but it's a good idea.
At times, the Liberal laughter held up House business.
This is no longer the little guy from Shawinigan. This is the big bully from Shawinigan.
The opposition was livid at the answers Chrétien gave all day long.
It's yet another irresponsible, arrogant, flippant answer to a serious question.
But it does indicate that this is a government without any kind of direction and very nearly out of control.
I think he's lost the sense that he's there to govern, that he's there to act in the public interest.
We had a great cabinet.
But back to the Prime Minister and his answers after cabinet. At one point, he did say it's time to get back to the Liberal agenda, part of his strategy to move on from Paul Martin.
We're going back to normal business, and we have a lot of work to do, and merci beaucoup.
Whether the Liberals as a whole can get back to business, try as they might, is as uncertain now as it has been since this controversy began. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Ottawa.
Dramatic developments today in a dispute between the Ontario government and Hydro One, the province's power transmission company. Hydro One's board of directors has been under fire because they gave top executives millions of dollars in pay and benefits. Today, the province introduced a bill to sack Hydro's board of directors and slash lucrative compensation packages given to some executives. But hours after the bill was tabled, the board of directors resigned. The forest fire situation in northeastern Alberta is going from bad to worse. Lightning is sparking more fires, and the largest one near Conklin is spreading. But further south today, there was some relief for firefighters. Soldiers pitched in to help near Redwater. Many of the local firefighters had been working around the clock for the past week. The cost of fighting the fires in the province is now approaching $2 million a day. Two men from British Columbia made Major League history today. They're the first Canadians to be picked in the top 10 in the Major League Baseball draft. Adam Loewen was chosen 4th overall by the Baltimore Orioles. The 18-year-old high school student is a left-handed pitcher with a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. And another left-handed pitcher, Jeff Francis, went 9th overall to the Colorado Rockies. 21-year-old is an honors student at the University of British Columbia. Both could get multi-million-dollar signing bonuses. Well, after 50 years on the job, you'd think she'd just about seen it all, but even the Queen seemed amazed by what she saw in London today. Don Murray reports on the 4th and final day of Britain's celebration of the Queen's Golden Jubilee.
A royal procession in a gold carriage, 240 years old. This is a ride that looks better than it feels. Previous royal passengers have compared it to a ship in rough seas. On her third ride, the first was for her coronation, the second for her silver jubilee, the Queen looked unperturbed. The coronation march rang down the Mall. Men on horses, including Prince Charles, and a Princess Anne accompanied the carriage. Hundreds of thousands watched and cheered as it moved through the streets of London to St. Paul's Cathedral. There, the elite of her realm gathered to give thanks for her 50 years on the throne. Later, at lunch, the Queen offered thanks of her own.
Gratitude, respect, and pride. These words sum up how I feel about the people of this country and the Commonwealth, and what this Golden Jubilee means to me.
And then this afternoon, another parade. The Queen and Prince Philip were themselves featured attractions, standing and waving in an open-top car. The Queen so obviously pleased, she ordered the vehicle to slow down. The final scene in this 4-day festival was perhaps the most stunning. A forest of flags and people on the Mall. The Queen and family on the palace balcony. The Concorde leading a flypast overhead. And swelling from a million throats, land of hope and glory. To mark a reign of 5 decades, it was more than enthusiasm. It was almost rapture. Don Murray, CBC News, London.
And we'll have more on the Queen's Jubilee and other stories on the National right after the game. Now we'll take a short break, and then it's back to Hockey Night in Canada.